Hello there. My name is Sheev Alright Frank the Senate Palpatine, and I'm here to tell you why climate change is bad. Let's begin. Before we get into the nitty gritty, we must ask ourselves, what exactly is climate change? Climate change is defined as a change in global or regional climate patterns. Now, the climate does go through change naturally, but at the rate we're going at, we're drastically going to change the climate for the worse. Climate change started during the middle of the 20th century and became more apparent during the late 20th century. This extreme change is all thanks to our good greenhouse gas friend, CO2, or carbon dioxide. Oh, and let's get one thing straight. Climate change and global warming are not interchangeable. Okay, next thing. Climate change is bad for many reasons. I'm going to talk about a few of them. Climate change leads to a process called ocean acidification. Ocean acidification is the process in which the pH of the water lowers itself to below 7, thus making it more acidic rather than basic. This is a problem for many reasons. For one, acidic water dissolves calcium carbonate, which makes up the skeletons of most creatures in the oceans and the structures of coral reefs. The reason ocean acidification occurs in the first place is because the oceans are absorbing at least 30% of man-made CO2, which has dropped the pH levels by zero point 0.1 pH, and by the year 2100, the oceans are projected to acidify by 144%. According to UC Davis, if CO2 emissions were drastically and immediately cut, we would still see ocean acidification effects for the next 1,000 years. Next effect. Ocean acidification isn't the only water-related impact associated with climate change. Climate change is also helping the rise of the ocean's waters. Since climate change heats up the Earth due to increased greenhouse gases such as CO2 and methane, this accelerates the melting of ice at our poles. Ice is the lightest natural object and reflects more sunlight, and water is the darkest. More melted ice leads to more water, which leads to more melted ice, etc., etc. That's a positive feedback loop, which is actually ironically negative, and you get where this is going. It also doesn't help that water vapor is an extremely potent greenhouse gas. According to climate.gov, the sea level has been rising for decades and was 7.7 centimeters higher in 2017 than in 2016. And that's no bueno. Since satellites began recording these rises in 1993, the sea level has been rising 3.1 millimeters per year, which is a lot considering how much ocean there is. Around 50% of all people on Earth live on a coastline, putting them in danger zone. So basically, say bye-bye to Florida man memes. Weather time! It's weather time, everybody! Time to check your weather! It's weather time! Hello, I'm a generic weather boy, here to forecast the weather. What's the weather? Let's see. It's going to be hotter in the desert, drier in Southern California, and wetter in the Caribbean. Yay! Wonderful! A 2014 study shows that heat waves have been increasing, and so has their intensity. In 2012, the Midwest set records for the highest monthly average temperatures. This study also shows an increase of drought and even transpiration, which is water evaporating through plants themselves. Since 1895, both Texas and Oklahoma set records in 2011 for having 100 days with 100-degree temperatures. The depleted water from these droughts contributed upwards of $10 billion lost in agriculture by itself. Not only this, but in the American Midwest, Northeast, and the Great Plains to some extent, rain has been falling hard. Rain in these regions have been falling in greater quantities and more frequently. This is especially problematic for the Midwest, which is also agricultural, because it leads to increased flooding. Speaking of flooding, hurricanes, the worst type of storm, as it can cause floodings, heavy downpours, stupid fast winds, and more terrible things, like thunderstorms. Also, we are making them worse. They can now also throw ocean garbage back onto land, so thanks humans for polluting the ocean. Since hurricanes form because of an increased sea temperature, expect more in the future. Also, winter storms are only getting worse and more intense, as are tornadoes, hail, thunderstorms, and windstorms. Yay! So, yeah, that's kind of why climate change is the big bad and why we should try to, avoid it.